Oh, it's week 9. We're live. We're live. And man, what a disastrous week for quarterbacks, which is a disastrous week for our wide receivers. We lost Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's devastating. It's catastrophic. The loss of Kirk Cousins is catastrophic for fantasy football. It's a disaster. It's a complete disaster. Because not only are we losing a competent starting top 12, top 15 at worst quarterback in fantasy football, we're also losing the guy who is on pace to lead the NFL in pass attempts. He was on pace to have one of the highest passing volume seasons in the history of the NFL, which in turn props up multiple of his pass catchers in that offense for us, for fantasy football purposes. We look at Justin Jefferson, and it's like, okay, there was a little bit of panic a few weeks ago when the Vikings were losing a bunch of games. They were playing terrible. What's the incentive? What's the incentive for Justin Jefferson to come back at all? Or even if he does come back, what is his incentive to rush back? Why is he not just going to sit back and wait until he's 100%, completely 100%? He's got no incentive to rush back. And then they started winning some games. I'm like, okay, all right. Justin Jefferson, he's going to be back. And he's going to be back as soon as he can possibly be back on that field because he needs to help that team win. And he wants to help that team win. But now, there's no Kirk Cousins. The team is going to tank in the ground. They just traded their starting guard, right? And they're going to be starting Jaron Hall at quarterback. And then maybe starting next week, the week after, it's going to be Josh Dobbs, which hip, hip, hooray, a little bit of an upgrade. But it's still Josh Dobbs. It's still going to be a below average offense, a below average passing game, a below average quarterback. They're going to be losing games. And then we've been starting Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, in the absence of Justin Jefferson, has been lighting it up. He's been breaking out all over the place. It's been awesome. What happens now? He's a rookie wide receiver with Jaron Hall as his quarterback. And then what happens when Justin Jefferson comes back? Jordan Addison is dead. Jordan Addison is dead the moment that Justin Jefferson comes back. Because Josh Dobbs, never mind Jaron Hall, Josh Dobbs cannot support 2 starting fantasy wide receivers. Cannot support that week in, week out. And then you add TJ Hawkinson on top of that. It's a disaster. So I made a video this week saying, sell your Vikings, sell all your Vikings. Do it. You gotta sell your Vikings if you can. Even Justin Jefferson. I still think Justin Jefferson will be back. I do. I think Justin Jefferson will be back. But it might be a little bit later than he would have been otherwise, right? In the effect of he cannot be that elite top 2, top 3, maybe even top 5 wide receiver that we're used to seeing without a Kirk Cousins. He can't do it. No matter how good he is. Can he be a top 10, top 12? Sure. But I don't know if he's getting in that elite tier. So we also are losing, we're losing Jimmy Garoppolo. Huge difference here. Raiders fired Josh McDaniels. They benched Jimmy Garoppolo. Now we have Aiden O'Connell at quarterback, which is a mostly unknown. It's already been a disaster as it is for Devontae Adams, All right. Disaster. Now you're going to bring in Aiden O'Connell. Now, the good news here, a little bit, something to hang our hats on a little bit here. With Aiden O'Connell did make a start earlier in the season. And in that game, Devontae Adams had 13 targets. Now, he was only like 8 catches for 75 yards or something. It wasn't, a normal Devontae Adams 13 target game. He'd catch, 10 of them for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. But at least we know that, all right, Aiden O'Connell is going to come in. He's going to pepper Devontae Adams with a bunch of targets. It might be inefficient, but he's going to get some volume. He's going to get the targets. He's going to get some catches. He can at least survive for fantasy football purposes. But after that, I don't think we can start Jacoby Myers reliably like we've been able to up to this point. Jacoby Myers has been awesome for us this year. Jacoby Myers has been great. Especially that first month of the season. He was fantastic. What a value. I don't know if we can play him at all the rest of the year. I don't. With Aiden O'Connell. Hey, maybe Aiden O'Connell, he surprises us. Maybe he will. But these backup quarterbacks, these rookie quarterbacks, they come in and they lock in on their number one targets. They got tunnel vision for that guy. It's hard for those secondary options. Now, when Aiden O'Connell started earlier in the season, Josh Jacobs was also significantly involved, not just in the running game, but he was getting checked down. He had a ton of, I believe he led the Raiders in targets in that game. He had a bunch. So we like Josh Jacobs. He can survive with Aiden O'Connell. And now it sounds like just before we went live, sounds like Matthew Stafford's going to be out. There was a little bit of hope there, a little bit of hope. Sounds like that got crushed. Both Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, right before we went live, they said, yeah, it's not happening. It's very unlikely. It's going to be Brett Rippon. And we saw Brett Rippon last year in Denver. Dude ain't it. And that is probably the most disastrous situation we have here because Matthew Stafford was supporting 2 dominant wide receivers. Now, they might have been alternating week to week in some cases, but there were also weeks where they were both, top 15 wide receivers. And now we need to rely on, at least for this week, and possibly beyond, we need to rely on Brett Rippon to support Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I don't know, man. I don't know about that. I don't have a lot of confidence in that. So when we got that news, right before we went live, I knocked both of those guys down the rankings pretty significantly. And they're both still in my top 20 because we have to play them. But temper your expectations. All right, so what we're here to do tonight, what we usually do on Saturday nights, is going to go through the rankings. We're going to rank them by tiers for both running backs and wide receivers for week 9. It's kind of like a little stress test. The day before the game, day before the action, just make sure we are locked in. Our rankings are as locked in, are as accurate as we can possibly get them. And me and you in the chat, we'll talk about it. If you disagree with where I have a guy, we'll chat about it. And like we've seen on multiple of these other shows in the past weeks, we'll make changes. We will update, we will make changes to the rankings live during this show to make sure we have the most accurate week 9 running back and wide receiver rankings on yardsperfantasy.com. You can see those. And if we do make changes, I will update them live as we are doing them. So you can see that reflected on the website within just a few minutes after the show. So we're going to start with the running backs, and I'm going to share my screen here. Give me one moment as I do that. I mean, we know who the top of the running backs are, right? Although we are without Christian McCaffrey this week. Don't forget. I did forget for a second there. There we go. Pulling up the running backs. My laptop is ancient, so bear with me here a minute. All right. So like I said, we are without Christian McCaffrey this week, which makes things a little bit more difficult. Usually we just put Christian McCaffrey right in that S tier, right up here, and it's over. It's over after that. We just move on. He's in his own tier by himself. But we do have, 4 teams on a bye this week? Obviously the 49ers. So we're without Christian McCaffrey, without Brandon Ayuk, we're without Deebo Samuel. But also the Broncos are on a bye. Lions are on a bye. And the Jaguars are on a bye. All right. So no Christian McCaffrey. So the S tier. The S tier. Oh, let me hold up. Bear with me. I always forget I got to readjust the screen here. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. We're ready for action. So the S tier, we're going to start. Our number 1 running back for week 9 is going to be Saquon Barkley, which feels a little shaky because that Giants offense has been brutal. It's been bad, man. It's been really, really bad. It is great news. Great news. I cannot find Saquon Barkley on this. We're going to start with this already. What the hell? It should be towards the top, you would think. Anyway, so they're getting Daniel Jones back, which is great news for that whole offense. I mean, they were fine with Tyrod Taylor, but with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, it was a disaster. And I know for Saquon, they just gave him all the touches in the run game and the pass game. Nobody else was involved. It was just Saquon. It was the Saquon Barkley offense. Hopefully we can get back to a more normal, at least semi-functional Giants offense with Daniel Jones coming back. Great matchup, though, going against the Raiders. The Raiders' defense has been pretty bad against running backs, pretty bad against everybody. So we had Saquon Barkley there at number 1. At number 2, it's going to be Austin Eckler. I think we put him right in that same tier. He's right there. But he also has a difficult matchup. He has a difficult matchup going against the Jets. Jets have been great. Jets have been really, really good against the run. And then speaking of the Jets, I think right in that same tier, we're going to go with Breece Hall. Breece Hall early in the season, I guess we can't be surprised. Early in the season, he was splitting the backfield touches pretty evenly with both Dalvin Cook and Michael Carter. But last 3 weeks or so, it's been all Breece Hall. He's getting a ton of opportunities in the run game. He's catching passes, seeing targets. Now the Jets' offense is still pretty bad. Still bad. Zach Wilson. Somehow they're finding ways to win games, though, which is impressive. We got Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a wide receiver. RB3. And then we got Alvin Kamara. I know a lot of people have Alvin Kamara as their number 1 back for this week. And I can't blame him. I really can't blame him. I just can't get there yet. I can't get there. Maybe he should be the RB1. Maybe he should be. He's got a great matchup. He's been getting a ton of touches in the run game. A ton of touches in the passing game. Just doesn't feel like he has the same ceiling that these first 3 guys have. That's the only thing for me. He's going to get the volume, both the run and the passing game. He's got all that. Gets opportunities at the goal line as well. I just don't feel like he has quite the juice to maybe have that week winning performance that these 3, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Breece Hall, are capable of. So Alvin Kamara, I got to put him a little bit below those guys as the RB4, but he is in the same tier. So they're all grouped together. if you want to adjust, if you want to put Alvin Kamara as your RB1, RB2, can't argue with that. I really can't. Let me know in the chat if you think you would put him as RB1. And RB5, I think we got to start a new tier as the RB5 here. Like Bijan Robinson. Bijan, it's been a weird season. He started really, really strong. And the weird season has really been no fault of his own, other than his headache issue or whatever he had a couple weeks ago. But he's got a good matchup this week. But he's still splitting carries, with Tyler Algier. But I mean, last week, coming off the headache game, he was right back to his usual 70-75% snap share. So he's right back to that usual role. He's seeing targets on the passing game. He finally got a rushing touchdown, which is great. But just the uncertainty with the role week to week, as far as just they're not unleashing him completely. They just haven't completely let him go because they can't let go of Tyler Algier, apparently. But I'm comfortable with him as my RB5 for the week. RB6 is DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, great season. All-purpose running back. He's got a great role in a great offense. Easy for DeAndre Swift as the RB6. RB7 is Jonathan Taylor. I got Jonathan Taylor as the RB7 this week. His role, as expected, has ramped up week over week over week over week. It's gone up every week. Last week was a little bit of a weird one. He started off so strong. And then it seemed like he had an injury. But then everybody's saying, Jonathan Taylor's denying he had an injury. The coaches are denying he had an injury. But it looked to us like he had an injury. I don't know. Are they lying to us? Probably. Why? What's the incentive of these guys lying to us? Just because they can? I feel like they can. That's it. They lie to us because they can. They like to play mind games with us. I don't get it. And Arthur Smith is the biggest offender of them all. I mean, dude. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he got asked at a press conference about benching Desmond Ridder for Taylor Heineke. He laughed it off. He talked down to the reporter who asked him the question, talked about toxic groupthink, makes him, ask that question, and people criticize Desmond Ridder about how bad he's playing. But they're not actually watching the film because the film's boring. You guys can't watch the film. You get too bored. You don't have the attention span to watch the film. I know what I'm looking at. I'm watching the film, right? And then the very next game, he benches Desmond Ridder for non-performance related, even though he was cleared from his concussion. He was on the bench with the headset on, ready to go in the game. He had his helmet. He was cleared. He was good to go. But it was performance related. He wasn't benched. And then a couple of days later, it comes out, hey, we're going to start Taylor Heineke this week, guys. We're going to start Taylor Heineke. Desmond Ridder's the backup. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? I mean, I agree with the decision. Maybe selfishly, because I do believe Taylor Heineke is good for us for fantasy football purposes. I think he's better off for Kyle Pitts. He's better off with Drake London, although we got to get Drake London healthy. But I do believe that in the long run, Taylor Heineke would be a better option for those guys for our purposes. But Arthur Smith is just a clown. He's a clown. And I just don't understand it. But we got way off topic there. We talked about Jonathan Taylor, and somehow we got to Arthur Smith. Whatever. Josh Jacobs is my RB8. We talked about him a few minutes ago when we talked about the impact of Aiden O'Connell now being the starting quarterback for the foreseeable future in Las Vegas. In Aiden O'Connell's game, let me pull it up real quick. Aiden O'Connell started a game earlier in the season. It's like week 2, week 3, something like that. Jimmy Garoppolo had that. No, it wasn't the back. Was it a concussion? Jimmy Garoppolo's first game missed. I know the second game he had a back injury, and then Brian Hoyer started that game, but his first one that he missed, Aiden O'Connell started. He threw the ball 39 times. In that game, though, Josh Jacobs, he carried the ball 17 times, which is a great role. He was inefficient. He had just 58 rushing yards, but he did score a touchdown. But he had 11 targets. He was second on the team in targets. Devontae Adams had 13. Josh Jacobs had 11. And then it was a huge drop off down to Jacoby Myers, who had 4. So it was the Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams show. I expect that is going to continue. They're going to lean on those guys, especially Josh Jacobs. He should easily see 15 to 20 carries every game rest of season, probably closer to the 20 than the 15. And he's going to see a ton of targets. Like I said, he had 11 targets in that game. He caught 8 of them, 81 yards. So this might be a good thing for Josh Jacobs because it's not like the offense is going to be, it can't get worse. It can't get worse. I don't think it's going to get better, but it can't get worse. All right. Josh Jacobs, my RB8. Let's go to this question from Freddie real quick, though. And then we'll get back to rankings. With Stafford out, I'm really thinking about starting Singletary at flex over Puka Nacua. Yeah, I mean, that's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game either way you play because, yeah, we got Devin Singletary, with no Dameon Pierce this week, but Devin Singletary hasn't been great. He's only been playing because Dameon Pierce hasn't been great either. But, I mean, if he's going to get a bell cow opportunity, which I think we might see some carries from Mike Boone that's going to piss us off if we're trying to start Devin Singletary, which I am going to be starting Devin Singletary in one of my matchups as well. But I can't. I don't think I can get there for over Puka Nacua. I don't think I can. I don't think I can do it. I get it. I get it, and I can't blame you for doing it. I really can't. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could pull that trigger because Puka Nacua has been too damn good, man. And it's hard because we see these backup quarterbacks come in and they lock in on their number one wide receiver and they just feed that guy. And that guy can survive. It's usually the secondary pass catchers that can't survive. In this case, it's like they've got 2 number one guys. So who's going to be the guy who doesn't survive? Who's going to be the guy who does survive? It could be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. I can't blame you for wanting to sit Puka Nacua. I can't. But I also don't think I could pull that trigger. I don't think I have the guts to start Singletary or Puka Nacua at this point. So I wouldn't do it. But, man, I don't blame you for doing it. All right, so my RB9, Isaiah Pacheco. Woo, what a season for Isaiah Pacheco, man. He's been so good. I feel like a proud dad every week when I look at Isaiah Pacheco's box score. Dude is killing it. Absolutely killing it. This is a guy that we were talking about before the NFL draft last year. Isaiah Pacheco. Man, I love it. And just every step of the way, he has exceeded expectations. He took over the starting job midway through last year. We knew that was coming. It was coming. And then this year, not only is he the starting running back, which everybody knew that coming into the season, but he has also overtaken Jerick McKinnon. He's out-targeting Jerick McKinnon week in, week out. And Jerick McKinnon's still getting a little bit of a work in the passing game, but it's not like the end of last year where Isaiah Pacheco was carrying the load. He was the workhorse on the running game, but on third downs, passing situations, he was on the sideline. He was watching. Jerick McKinnon was the guy. That's not the case anymore. Jerick McKinnon does come in sometimes, but Isaiah Pacheco is much more involved in the passing game, which is why we can confidently start him as a top 10 running back every week at this point. And that game's going to be fun, man. That game is going to be fun. I'm kind of pissed that it's a Sunday morning game. I hate with a passion. I hate Sunday morning games. I hate them because I just want it. On Sunday morning, I just want to get up when I want to get up. take my time getting ready for the day. I like to go for a walk. I like to come back and do my start sit show at 12:20. But then I have to sit here and watch a football game, which it's going to be a great game and I want to watch it. But there's other things I want to do on Sunday morning. It's not what I want to be doing. I want to spend the rest of my day watching football. Can I just have those first few hours of the day to myself, please? Please, please, NFL, please, please. I mean, I can handle it when it's like, if it's like a Jets Giants game, whatever. I can have that on the background. I don't care. Dolphins, Chiefs, you're going to make me get up and awake, ready for that? At least we get the extra hour, right? The daylight savings time is going to be great for that. But I'm like tempted to not even do my start sit show because I just want to watch this game. Just want to watch this game. I'm going to do the start sit show. Don't you worry. I'll be here. But man, I just want to watch the game. Anyway, speaking of Chiefs, Dolphins, my next running back coming in is going to be Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert has fallen off the last few weeks, but I am still confidently starting him as an RB1. I'm going to give him a couple more weeks. He's not losing work to anybody, really. It's just, it seems like the offense has shifted a little bit. Jalen Waddle coming back, I think, plays a part in that. We also got to remember that Raheem Mostert is 31 years old, who has gone through a litany of lower body injuries throughout his career. So that also plays a factor here, I'm sure, in why his performance has dropped off a little bit. So I'm hoping it's nothing. I'm hoping that we can get the Raheem Mostert that we had earlier in the season, get that back going. Because he was the guy I was buying. Everybody was selling him. I was buying him, even with Devon Achane involved there. And he's coming back soon as well. I just want pieces of this Dolphins offense. I want pieces of the Dolphins offense. So I'm going to still start Raheem Mostert. He's the RB10 here. And we get Tony Pollard, who has been, I don't know if we can call him a bust. Can we call him a bust? I don't think we can call him a bust. He's not quite bust worthy. Man, he's flirting with it. He's flirting with it. He's flirting with it. I think we got to move Mostert down here. Tony Pollard's been really disappointing. He's been disappointing, and the role has been there. But I think one of the things that we're seeing is the play calling is different. Kellen Moore, when Tony Pollard was on the field, he was calling run plays that were fit for Tony Pollard's running style, his skill set. Whereas Mike McCarthy's just trying to jam him up the middle. Just jam him in the back of the line. Just jam him up there. It doesn't work that way, man. He's not that kind of running back. He's not him. That's not him. That's not his game. That's not his style. You got to get him into space, get him on the edge. And, are we surprised? No. Mike McCarthy is Mike McCarthy. All right. Start 2, and then we'll get back to our rankings here. Start 2, Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, and Chuba Hubbard. So Chuba Hubbard, by the way, was named the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers this week. I said it in the summer. I did. Chuba Hubbard is better than Miles Sanders. He's at least equal. At least equal. At least. I think he's better. I think he's better. And now the coaching staff in Carolina is saying the same thing. They're saying the same thing. With jobs on the line, they're underperforming as a team. The offense is bad. They're like, I know we paid this Miles Sanders guy, but Chuba Hubbard's looking really good. Chuba Hubbard, he's much better. He's much better. He's got more juice. He's better in the passing game. He's not great, but he's better than Miles Sanders. He is better. I think we're going to go Terry McLaurin for sure. Terry McLaurin, easy, lock him in. Sam Howell has played well-ish. He has a little bit. And Curtis Samuel's out. So that's going to open up some more targets for Terry McLaurin. T. Higgins has been a disaster, though I'm still buying low. I'm still buying low. It's going to happen. I still believe it's going to happen. You can't have this guy, T. Higgins, this talented, in this offense with this role, and him just flop week in, week out. It's not going to continue. It's not going to continue. I don't believe it. So I'm buying low on T. Higgins. So I'm gonna start Terry McLaurin. I think we'll go Chuba Hubbard as the second start. But I'm buying low on T. Higgins. I'm buying low on Higgins. But let me get Chuba Hubbard. Colts defense is pretty bad. They've given up a lot of points. Let's go McLaurin. Let's go Chuba Hubbard. All right. After Tony Pollard here in the rankings, we're going to go Kenneth Walker. And this one's a risky one. Kenneth Walker, last week, he was battling a calf injury. And supposedly, according to Pete Carroll, that had nothing to do with why Zach Charbonnet out-touched him. I don't believe a word that Pete Carroll says. Never have, never will. So I don't believe it. This was clearly a Kenneth Walker injury situation. Now, Zach Charbonnet's a pretty good running back. Kenneth Walker is superior. So I do believe that Pete Carroll and the Seahawks do like not Chuba Hubbard, Zach Charbonnet. So I think he could be more involved. But I don't believe that this was just a performance thing. This was an injury thing to Kenneth Walker last week. I expect, but that's the thing. Is the injury situation cleared up? That's the problem. We don't know. We have no idea. We don't know. So it's a risk. It is a risk. If it weren't for that, he'd probably be in my top 5 running backs. And then on top of that, you add the Ravens as a difficult matchup. So he's going to be in this third tier, unfortunately. Joe Mixon going into this game with an injury of his own. He's coming in as the next running back here. I think he'll go right. I think we'll put him in the next tier, though. I think we'll put him in the next tier. We'll put him in the C tier. Then we get Rachaad White. Rachaad White started off the season slow, but he has been producing in the fantasy football column. He's been giving us fantasy points over the last few weeks. He's been inefficient as a runner. It's been, the offensive line is terrible. He's a really, really good receiver. He's a top 5 receiving running back in the NFL. And we're starting to see that come to fruition here midway through the season. And I think if you drafted him in the 6th, 7th, 8th round, you got to be happy. You got to be happy. He hasn't hit his ceiling that we were hoping he would get. He hasn't had the breakout season that we were hoping. The upside range of his outcomes hasn't hit like we were hoping. But he's outproducing his ADP. He's still outproducing his ADP. So you can't be too mad at Rachaad White. In a bad offense, bad offensive line, he's still outperforming his ADP. We'll take it. We'll take it. Would have been nice if he hit the ceiling, but we'll take it. He's not killing your team. He's not killing your team. Look at James Cook. James Cook. I mean, they just brought in Leonard Fournette. I don't expect that to play much of an impact this week, but moving forward, it's going to. It's going to. Because I hate to tell you, but Leonard Fournette is a better receiver out of the backfield than James Cook. Everybody wants to make James Cook this great receiving running back. That's not him. He's not that guy. He's really not. He never was at Georgia, and he's not in the NFL. He is a capable receiving running back. He is a competent, but he is not, this star wide receiver or a star receiving running back out of the backfield. He's not. It's not his game. He's not that great of a runner either. Hate to tell you. I mean, he's okay. He gets the job done, but he's not that great. So I expect Leonard Fournette, once he gets ramped up here, he's gonna take a lot of snaps in the passing game. I think that's why they brought in Leonard Fournette. He's gonna take snaps in passing situations, maybe get some goal line work. And I don't think Latavius Murray's going away. Not going to be good news for James Cook moving forward. I hate to tell you that, but for week 9, I think we're in the clear. Could still start him as a top 15 running back. I don't see a problem with that. Aaron Jones, another guy that's been disappointing. I was kind of hoping he would get traded at the deadline. Imagine Aaron Jones in Baltimore instead of Justice Hill. He can have the big boom, Gus Bus between the tackles, Aaron Jones on the edge, running routes in the passing game, giving you an explosive element out of that backfield. That would have been fun. Not going to happen, obviously, now, but he's stuck in a bad offense. He's been battling injuries all season. Still in a 50-50 timeshare with A.J. Dillon, which is gross. Ramondre Stevenson is the next running back here. Another guy who's been disappointing this year, though he's had some better weeks lately. He has had some better weeks, getting a little bit more involved in the passing game that we were seeing from him last year, which is good to see. Washington defense has been terrible. Let me get to Gus Edwards. We were just talking about Gus Edwards. So he's the RB19 for me on this week. I'm not going to spend too much time. There he is. I'm not going to spend too much time looking for him, but he's right here. Perfect. Excellent. And then we'll wrap up the top 20 running backs with the aforementioned Chuba Hubbard, who is a better running back than Miles Sanders and the Carolina Panthers. Finally. So that's great to see. Drag them up. And after that, I'm not going to put them in the rankings tier up here, but after that, it is Darrell Henderson as my RB21, Devin Singletary, my RB22, Alexander Madison, RB23, Zach Moss rounds out my top 24 running backs for week 9. You can find my rankings at yardsperfantasy.com if you want to see my full running back rankings, quarterbacks, wide receivers, flex, tight ends, super flex, all that. Let's get to the wide receivers. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to those in between the rankings as well. But let's move on to the wide receivers. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then I'm going to reshare my screen. And we'll go to the wide receivers. Here we are. All right. Wide receivers for week 9. Pretty easy at the top, right? Pretty easy. No brainer. Tyreek Hill. Again, I don't want to go on a rant again about Sunday morning football, but it is Tyreek Hill going against his former team. Too bad it's in Germany, not in Kansas City. That would have been cool. But you know he's going to want to go off in that game. No, he doesn't go off every other game, but it's going to be extra important for him to have a big game against the Chiefs. To say to them, hey, you probably should have paid me. I'm pretty damn good. And fast. Dude is fast, man. Another guy who is pretty damn good is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has I believe last week he tied the record. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I believe he tied the record last week for the most consecutive games with 125 receiving yards in NFL history. So he's looking to break that this week against Dallas. And I think he can get there. I really do. I think he can. This is gonna be a fun game. Fun game. He's just been tearing it up. He's been tearing it up. So the other day, I was going through. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what prompted me to go there. Must have gotten a comment on YouTube or something that sent me back to a video I made before the season, during the preseason, how I said, you know what? I don't think you should be drafting Bijan Robinson in the top 10. Instead, I think at his ADP, you should be drafting like a Stephon Diggs or an AJ Brown. I was looking through the comments from that video from back in the summer, and there were a lot of comments laughing at me for even suggesting that you consider drafting AJ Brown around the 10th pick in the first round over Bijan Robinson. They were laughing at me. They were killing me. They were killing me in that comments. Killing me. You could see like the chalk outline of my corpse in the comments. Who's laughing now? Who is laughing now? Thank you, AJ Brown, for making me right. Appreciate you. Jamar Chase is my wide receiver 3 for week 9. I think he belongs right in that same tier as these guys. What do you think? I don't think so, actually. You know what? I think we'll go in the second tier. I think he, right now, talent-wise, he's sure with them. Right now, I don't know, man. He's like in between. Don't you think he's like in between? He's like this close to being in that S tier with Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown, but he's not quite there. What do you guys think? You think I should put him in that tier? Let me know if you think I should put him in that tier. I think I'm going to leave him right here in the A tier, and we'll put Stephon Diggs there to join him. He's not all by himself. We'll put Stephon Diggs there. He's my wide receiver 4 for the week. If I can find Stephon Diggs here, what the hell? I have such a hard time finding these guys, man. And this big mass of pictures of players. All right. Well, we know. We'll find them. Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver 4. After that, it's CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's my wide receiver 5 for week 9. He had finally, probably his first or second like big boom game of the season. Kind of waiting for it. He was getting frustrated the weeks leading into that game. You could see it. That he was frustrated with his lack of involvement in that offense. I can't blame him. The offense was not playing well, and he is clearly the best talent in that offense. Why are they not throwing him the football? Hey, look, I found Stephon Diggs. So he had every reason to be upset, and then they finally get him going. They get him involved last week, and they play well. Like, hello, of course, CeeDee Lamb. It's CeeDee Lamb. After CeeDee Lamb, it is Keenan Allen as my wide receiver 6 for the week. Keenan Allen has been killing it. Now, in week 9, is he going to get Sauce Gardner? I don't know if Sauce Gardner is traveling to the slot with Keenan Allen. I know Keenan Allen, lines up all over the field. I expect he'll play quite a bit in the slot to try to avoid Sauce Gardner. But if he does get Sauce Gardnered, then we got to start thinking about Quentin Johnston, because we got no Josh Allen this week. And there's only one guy left, and it's Quentin Johnston. Eventually, he's going to play well. Maybe. Hopefully. Probably not. I mean, did you see the Quentin Johnston stands on Twitter last week? They were celebrating. They were so happy. The guy caught 5 passes. He had 50 receiving yards. Oh yeah. They were so happy. They were so happy. 50 yards. 50 yards. 50 yards. So happy about it. It's like, tell me you're a bust without telling me you're a bust. When a group of your fans, people who had takes that were terrible coming into the season, are celebrating you having 50 yards, man, you know you're down bad. You know they're desperate. You know they're desperate. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, I know there was one guy. I don't know who he is, but he was like, where are the where's that crowd that was talking about Quentin Johnston as a bust? They're not saying much now. Why? Because he had 50 yards. 50 yards. Like, we're still here. Hello, we're still here. We're laughing at you for victory lapping 50 yards. Hello, as we get a great performance week in, week out from Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers. Like, we're happy over here. This is where we are. Hello. It's just fun being right, man. It's so fun being right. But with that said, I think if Quentin Johnston's on your waiver wire, I think you got to pick him up. You got to pick him up. With Josh Palmer out, tough matchup this week because he could be the one that ends up seeing Sauce Gardner. If Keenan Allen's over in the slot, it's gonna be Quentin Johnston that sees Sauce Gardner. I can't remember who they play next week, but it is a good matchup next week. I want to say it's the Lions. I think it's the Lions, which is gonna be a fun game. Chargers, Lions. I could be completely wrong, but I want to say it's the Lions next week for the Chargers. That could be the Quentin Johnston game. That could be it. Coming from me, that's saying something. Because I've been calling Quentin Johnston a bust since freaking July. But he could have a game against the Lions. Adam Thielen's my wide receiver 7. We got to pick up the pace here. We're going way too slow. We got to pick up the pace. We're only 7 wide receiver in this thing here. Wide receiver 7 is Adam Thielen. Where's Adam Thielen? Adam Thielen. Speaking of where is Adam Thielen? Adam Thielen, coming into the season, he was in the coffin. I know I've said that a few times. He was in the coffin. He was over. They were about to put him in the ground and pour dirt on him. And then he just rose from the dead. And it's like, hello, I'm still here. I might be old as fuck, but I'm still here. He's apparently not in this list of wide receiver pictures because I can't find him. That's all right. After Adam Thielen, it is going to be Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle has been getting it going. We kept telling you, just stay patient. It's going to happen, especially in this offense with how good Tua is playing, how good that offense is playing. Jalen Waddle had some injuries earlier in the season. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's been happening. It's been happening. It's been great to see. It's been great to see. After Jalen Waddle, it's Mike Evans. This was another guy I was putting in the coffin. I thought it was over. I really did. I thought he was dust. Not even close. I was wrong about that one for sure. Very, very wrong. He is same guy we've been seeing for years. I know last week was a little bit disappointing. Really wasn't seeing much targets. Chris Godwin played well. But same Mike Evans we've been seeing for years. Got to fire him up. My wide receiver 9 for this week. Wide receiver 10 is Devontae Smith. I'm still looking for Adam Thielen. If you guys see Adam Thielen, let me know because he belongs up here. Oh, literally the first wide receiver on here. What the hell? And I'm wearing my glasses too. I still missed them. Come over here, Adam. There you go. All right. After Mike Evans, it is Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith finally had his nice game last week. We've been waiting for it. saying it was going to happen. I was saying it was going to happen. I thought it was going to be the week before when they played the Dolphins. Thought that game was going to be a shootout. It was going to be a lot of fun, a lot of points scored, a lot of passing. Perfect Devontae Smith game. And then he injures his hamstring during the week. Like, what the hell? He still played, but I think that probably kept him from breaking out in that week. 1 week later, we were 1 week early on Devontae Smith. He had his game last week. About time. I think he could do it back-to-back going against the Cowboys this week. So that's my top 10. We have a question here from Matt. Is it? I've never realized that. I'm such an idiot. I've done this every week. Holy shit. I thought they were just random. Oh my god, that's hilarious. It was never like that before, I swear. Wow. This is going to make this show so much better. Holy shit, this is why you're the director of content at yardsperfantasy.com. To stop me from being an idiot. What the hell? I've done this week in, week out. We've missed a few. Almost every week we've done this. I struggle this is killing me. Every single week to find these guys in this massive pool of pictures and players. And it took me until now, and I didn't even notice. I don't think I ever would have noticed if Matt hadn't said something. This is hilarious. They're in alphabetical order by first name. Wow. Holy shit. Wow. I feel really dumb. And I know I have moments, but wow, this is like, whew. All right, that was that. Okay. All right, that's going to make things so much easier. So much easier. Wow. All right. Anyway, I am at a loss for words right now after that. All right, let's get to the question though. What do we think of Deontay Johnson rest of season? Does he know how to score touchdowns now? It looks like it. Dude finally scored. He finally found the end zone. About time. It's been 2 years since the guy scored a touchdown. That's unbelievable. And it's not like he's missing games with injuries. I mean, I know he's missed a few earlier this season, but he played all last season. Didn't score a touchdown. But I mean, when you have Kenny Pickett as your quarterback, I mean, how many touchdowns are there really going to be, you know? So yeah, it was great to see him in the end zone. I guarantee you, this is one of these situations where this guy doesn't score a touchdown for 2 years. He's going to score like a touchdown for like 5 straight weeks. You know what's going to happen. It just happens that way. He's seeing the targets. The opportunities are there. He got red zone targets a bunch last year. That's not an issue. So it's just touchdown variance for the most part. And with no Pat Fryermuth to throw the ball to in the red zone, that's going to help. It's going to help. So yeah, I expect probably, at least 3 more touchdowns from Deontay Johnson the rest of the season. He's not going to like start lighting up the scoreboard, but 3, I think we can easily get to 3 more touchdowns rest of the season for Deontay Johnson. I'm still blown away that these guys are in alphabetical order, and I never noticed that. Wow. I might need to retire from this show. Really bad. Really bad. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. Are we smashing this from Brian? Are we smashing the start button on Davante Adams? I don't think so. Are we hitting it? Yes. Are we smashing it? No. Now, we talked about at the top of the show the impact of Aiden O'Connell. And there's a little bit of hope here. A little bit of hope. Because in Aiden O'Connell's one start from earlier in the season, I think it was like week 3. It doesn't matter which week 2 or week 3. Davante Adams had 13 targets. He had 13 targets in that game. He got 8 of them. Now, it was inefficient. He only had like 75 yards. Whereas, a classic Davante Adams 13 target, 8 catch game, we would expect like 150 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns from him, right? He only had 75. and I don't think he scored. But at least we have some hope that he's going to have the volume. He's going to get back to being that target hog wide receiver that he's been pretty much his entire career, except for the first few years when he was a complete bust. But since then, he's been a target hog, year in, year out, week in, week out. Now, of course, like I said, it's not going to be as efficient, but I think there is hope. No more Josh McDaniels, no more Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting quarterback. I think there is hope for Davante Adams. Smashing the start button is getting a little far ahead of ourselves. But I think we can push it. And we're going to get to him here in a few minutes with these wide receiver rankings. I think we're up to wide receiver 10 with Devontae Smith. He was wide receiver 10 here in my week 9 rankings. And we don't see Davante Adams there yet. He's coming, but not yet. He says, my team has both Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams. Believe it or not, Jacoby Myers is out on the waiver wire. Might pick him up and start him over Adams. Pick him up for sure. Jacoby Myers has been great, but I'm definitely not starting him over Davante Adams. Now, have you said that, if things had stayed the same, Josh McDaniels was still there, Jimmy Garoppolo was still the starting quarterback, I'd still would say, no, don't do that. But I'd feel a little less crazy about it. But when you have these backup quarterbacks, these inexperienced quarterbacks, he was a 3rd round, 4th round rookie. Oftentimes what happens with these quarterbacks, when they come in, they get their opportunity. Because I don't think anybody thinks Aiden O'Connell is like this franchise quarterback type of guy. He's a backup quarterback, all right? These guys come in and they lock in. They say, we got a Davante Adams out there. We got a stud #1 wide receiver. We saw this for years with DeAndre Hopkins. Quarterbacks come in, they lock in on that guy. The rest of the wide receivers, the rest of the pass catchers in that offense, they are the ones who suffer. That's going to be Jacoby Myers. And I talked about that before Aiden O'Connell's first start earlier in the year. And that's exactly what happened. Davante Adams had 13 targets. Jacoby Myers had 4. Now, you also have Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs had 11 targets in that game, and he had 17 carries on that. So I'm feeling really good if I have Josh Jacobs right now. I do, even though the offense is terrible. I feel good about that. I don't feel good about having Jacoby Myers. I don't feel good about it. And I have Jacoby Myers in multiple of my leagues this year. And it's been great. It's been awesome. He's completely outperformed his ADP, just smashed it. It's been a guy you can reliably start in the flex almost every single week. I don't know if that's going to continue with Aiden O'Connell. I don't have the confidence that you do to start him over Davante Adams. And I would strongly recommend you don't do that. Pick him up for sure. Definitely pick him up. Let's see what happens. I don't think you can start him over Davante Adams. Bless you if you can. I mean, good luck. Good luck. I mean, I don't have the guts to do it. I really don't. And I honestly don't think it makes sense to do it. Let's get back to these wide receiver rankings. Keep dropping your questions, your comments in the chat. We'll get to them. We'll do it. Rank a couple guys, get to a couple questions. Rank a couple guys, get to a couple questions. Probably have another half hour of this show to go. We're only halfway through the wide receiver rankings. Wide receiver 11 is going to be Michael Pittman. And we can go right down to the M's because they're in alphabetical order. Logically. Michael Pittman, easy to find. Boom. Now, if I can only get them to just drag up here. Here we go. Beautiful. Easy. Michael Pittman. Target machine. Although Josh Downs is coming on pretty strong here as well. So a little bit of target competition that we didn't have earlier in the year. Cooper Kupp is my next wide receiver. This is one that normally he'd be significantly higher than this, and he was. I had him significantly higher, and then the news came out right before we went live. Adam Schefter and Eden Rappaport saying very, very, very unlikely that Matthew Stafford is going to play. It's going to be Brett Rippon in this game. They promoted the guy with the fake name from the practice squad up to the active roster. That was an indicator that Brett Rippon is going to play. He's going to be the starter in this game, and Matthew Stafford's going to miss. So we had to knock down both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua from in these rankings. We had to knock them down. I think I had Cooper Kupp in my top 5. He's now outside the top 10. But we still have to start him. We just have to. It's Cooper Kupp. We have to play him, right? We have to play him. Chris Olave, wide receiver 13, man. I still believe. I really do. I still believe in Chris Olave. I think it's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. I made a video about him this week. I've made multiple videos about him during the season saying, buy low, buy low, buy low, buy low. Targets, target share, air yards. These are like the biggest indicators of future performance from wide receivers. Chris Olave is crushing in these categories. He's dominating in these categories. It's not coming to fruition. It's not turning into actual production yet. It's not happening, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Everything is there telling us it's going to happen. He is dominating. It just hasn't all come together yet, but it's going to. I promise you it's going to. This could be the week going against the Bears at home in the Dome. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We got to keep starting Chris Olave because you do not want him to be on your bench when it all hits, because it's all going to come together. And he's one of the biggest touchdown regression candidates in all of football. If you look at anybody's expected touchdown model, he is screaming. A screaming touchdown regression candidate. These things are all going to come together. He's going to explode at any moment. I can't wait for it to happen. I know it's going to happen soon. I really hope it's tomorrow going against the Bears. Would be a lot of fun if it is. DK Metcalf is another guy I talked about this week. I'm buying low. DK Metcalf has had double-digit targets in each of the last 2 games. He's another guy that is dominating in target share. He's dominating the air yards. He is also in line for some touchdown regression. In a good way, in a positive way. He's due for some touchdowns. So we're buying low on DK Metcalf as well. We got to start him confidently as a top 15 wide receiver. Garrett Wilson is my wide receiver 15 for the week. He has survived. He's been, again, like we talked about with Devontae Adams, like we've talked about with other wide receivers, when they play with backup quarterbacks, they can survive. It's the other options in the passing game that have a hard time surviving. That's why I'm worried about like a Jordan Addison whenever Justin Jefferson comes back. Garrett Wilson has survived. Now, had he had an Aaron Rodgers or, a starting caliber NFL quarterback, he'd be dominating right now because he's getting a ton of targets, and the targets would be a lot more efficient. He would have a lot more efficiency, more touchdowns. So he could be exploding with a good quarterback. But with Zach Wilson, the efficiency is way down. It's not there. But the volume is enough to continue to play Garrett Wilson as a top 20 wide receiver every single week, just based on volume. All right, Arthur. Should I start Trey McBride or Taysom Hill? Or should I grab Jake Ferguson off waivers, 8-man PPR? I'm going to go Trey McBride. I know he's got Clayton Tune as his quarterback this week. That's a little bit concerning. But no Zach Ertz, obviously. Trey McBride's been coming on really, really strong. All the indicators were there coming into last week that was going to happen. So it's really cool that it did. Obviously, the quarterback change is very concerning. He'll have Kyler next week, it looks like. But it's a little bit concerning for week 9. Taysom Hill he was being used when Juwan Johnson was out. He's being used as almost like a classic traditional tight end on top of his role where he takes the direct snap and he runs around and does all his usual Taysom Hill stuff. That his routes, though, with Juwan Johnson back last week, the routes were way down. So he was not as involved in that area. Now he still scored the touchdown. He still had a good game, productive. He's a guy that I think you can start every single week. There'll be some volatility there, but I'm not going with Jake Ferguson. So I think he's a fine play. He's a fine play. I'm going to go Taysom Hill. I'm sorry, Trey McBride, and that's what I would go. I would go Trey McBride. He was so good last week, man. Breakouts happening. Josh Downs on my waiver wire. Should I drop Tyler Lockett for Josh Downs? I can't get there. No, I wouldn't do that. Now, I would definitely be trying to pick up Josh Downs. I don't know how the hell he's still on your waiver wire. That is a mistake by everybody in your league. Obviously, it has to be a small league. This is like a 10-man league at most with small rosters, small benches. So I get it. But Josh Downs needs to be rostered. Not over Tyler Lockett, though. So, no, I would not do that. All right. Next up in the wide receiver rankings, we left off with Garrett Wilson. He's my wide receiver 15 for the week. And this is where we get to Davante Adams. I know we've talked about Davante Adams multiple times throughout the show already, so we don't really need to touch on it too much. But I will just repeat. When Aiden O'Connell started early in the season, Davante Adams was completely fine. He survived. He had 13 targets, 8 catches, 75 yards. He's going to be fine. He's not going to be the dominant wide receiver that we want him to be. But you can start him as the wide receiver 15 and feel comfortable with it. I'm telling you, you have permission to start Davante Adams. You can confidently start him as a wide receiver 15. Again, it's not the elite guy that we were drafting him to be, but he's startable. You can play him. Wide receiver 16. That was the wide receiver 16. So wide receiver 17 is DJ Moore. DJ Moore is wide receiver 17. He's a guy who's it's been up and down, man. It's been up and down all year. To really no fault of his own. He's he struggled in games with Justin Fields, and he exploded with games with Justin Fields. He's also had some good games and some bad games with Agent. So he's a volatile guy. But you got to still start him. Next up is Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is another guy. I mean, you want to talk about volatility? Gabe Davis is like the definition of a volatile wide receiver. And I always say, embrace the volatility. We want these guys who can go out there and put out a huge performance at any time. Gabe Davis can do that. Now, he's also going to give you some goose eggs, but we just got to take the good with the bad with the good. And Gabe Davis, I've never been a Gabe Davis guy. If you followed me throughout my time, doing all this stuff, you know that. I have hated on Gabe Davis for years. But I did say, coming into this year, that this might be the year he's a value. He is a value, and he was value in drafts. He is performing up to his ADP. He's outperforming his ADP. We were fading him big time last year when he was going the 4th round. But this year he's going like round 7, round 8, round 9. Totally fine with that. He's not that great of a wide receiver, on paper, in a vacuum. In that offense with Josh Allen, he's proven time and time again he's capable of having big weeks, even if the target share isn't super big. Coming in after that, we'll wrap it up with Amari Cooper as the wide receiver 20. Another guy who's it's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. He's going to give you some really good weeks. He's going to give you some down weeks. It's just career. It's just the way he's been his whole career. He does get Deshaun Watson back this week, which I don't even know if that's good news. Is that good news? I mean, I guess. But I mean, Deshaun Watson's been no better than PJ Walker. He really hasn't been. But Amari Cooper's at home. We know the home road splits with Amari Cooper, so I think we can play him as a wide receiver 20 this week. Then I'll just go through the next 4 or 5 guys. We won't throw them in the whatever this is called here, the rankings tier, but My wide receiver 21 is Puka Nakua. He's a guy that we need to, I guess we got to still play him, but we got to temper our expectations with Brett Rippon as a quarterback. We knocked him down significantly in the rankings with that news. But again, he's a guy that you still got to play in most cases. Then I got Zay Flowers as the wide receiver 22, Chris Godwin, wide receiver 23, Terry McLaurin rounds out the top 24 wide receivers. And we had a question a couple minutes ago about Tyler Lockett. Should I drop Josh Downs for Tyler Lockett? I said no. Tyler Lockett's my wide receiver 25, and just a few spots down below that is Josh Downs. He's in the top 30, wide receiver 29, but we're not dropping a Tyler Lockett to go get him, but he is worth going to get. All right. Get to this one from Brian. It says, thanks for the advice. Wide receiver core is CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Christian Watson, Devontae Smith, and Tyler Boyd. I was worried about Lamb and Devontae Smith. I wouldn't worry about those guys at all. I'm not worried about Lamb or Devontae Smith. Again, like we talked about with volatility, Devontae Smith is one of these guys who can explode any single week, but he's also going to give you some down weeks. I think you just got to accept the down weeks because he's going to give you some big weeks. And same with CeeDee Lamb to some extent, though he's going to be more consistent for you. But yeah, I think that's about it. If there's no more questions, I think we can wrap it up here. We will be back tomorrow, 12:20. As much as I don't want to do a show during that game, the Chiefs and Dolphins, I just want to sit and watch that game. But we're going to do a show for the people because I want to get you guys ready for week 9 the best we possibly can. In the meantime, if you have any more questions, drop them in the Yards Per Fantasy Discord. You can find the link to that on yardsperfantasy.com. Just go to the menu or scroll to the bottom of the screen. It's right there at the bottom right corner. Join our Discord. Me and our other analysts on our team are always happy to answer questions, chat it up in there as well. And you can find all my rankings at yardsperfantasy.com. That's yardsperfantasy.com. Download the Yards Per Fantasy app. We have our start sit tool. You can just plug a guy in there. They'll compare against my rankings and the Fantasy Pros consensus rankings, so you can kind of see both where everybody stands on those guys. But yeah, I think that's it. Great show, guys. I appreciate everybody who tunes into these. Really, really means so much to me, especially those of you who put comments, ask questions, and so forth. Really, really means a lot to me. We're trying to grow this thing, and can't do it without you guys. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.